Hello, everyone. It is now 12 o'clock, so let's get this webinar started. Hello, and thank you all for joining us for a webinar on the California State Library's web archiving program. My name is Michael McCurdy, and I'm a senior librarian with the Government Publications section and co-presenter. I'm also joined today by Catherine Wessenfeld, a librarian with the Government Publications section, and by Mona Robinson, a supervising librarian of the Government Publications section and Law Library sections. And she'll be monitoring our Q&A session later at the end of the program. So just a bit about today's webinar. I'll be giving a brief overview of the State Library and the section we work in, and then I'll discuss web archiving, its importance, and provide some background information about our web archive collection. Then Catherine will provide a demonstration of the collection and how to search for websites and documents, and then we'll move on to the Q&A portion of our webinar. Sorry about that. So I have a few housekeeping notes to go over before we get started. The presentation will last about 40 minutes with a 15-minute Q&A program to close the program. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please let us know in the Q&A feature, and we'll do our best to help resolve them. The webinar is also being recorded and will be uploaded to the California State Library's YouTube channel in about a week from today's date. And live transcription is enabled. If you would like to see captions, please click on the CC icon. And you can also submit questions you have into the Q&A feature at any time, and we'll enter those at the end of the program. And lastly, the chat feature is disabled for two-way communication. We have posted several links into the window that attendees can view, and I'll kind of mention a few of those during the webinar. So a bit about the Government Publications section. It's one of 6 libraries that make up the public-facing portion of the California State Library. The Government Publications section is a state and federal depository library, which means that we've been officially designated to receive, retain, and make available government documents in various formats from both federal and state government at no cost. We're here to provide the public with free and open access to government information, and we will help anyone find and access it. We also provide one-on-one patent and trademark consultations by appointment. You can learn more about our library and the resources we offer by visiting our websites. Links to both the State Library's website and the Government Publications section's website are posted in the chat window. And before we move on, I have a quick poll that I'd like folks to enter some information in. And so you should be seeing it momentarily. All right, should be popping up now. So if you can just take a kind of quick second to kind of answer the poll. We're trying to gauge people's familiarity with web archiving and see what they know about it in general. So yeah, thank you for taking a second to weigh in. We'll just give it another moment. And it sounds like I'm going to go ahead, and the poll looks like we've kind of hit most of the people responding. Thank you very much. And so I'll share the results. Looks like we have kind of an even split for the most part. A lot of people are somewhat familiar with it. Some people are not familiar at all. And then looks like about a third of you all have some familiarity with web archiving and what that means. So that's wonderful. All right. And so let's kind of talk a little bit about web archiving. What is it? So web archiving is the process of collecting, preserving, storing, and replaying copies of websites and other web-based content so they can be accessed even after the original pages are altered, removed, or taken offline. The archiving process includes capturing text, images, videos, links, and documents like PDFs and spreadsheets, and their associated metadata. The end result is to reproduce a website and show how it looked and functioned on the day it was captured. So now I'd just like to kind of touch upon the importance of web archiving and what it means for government transparency and public access. Websites are now one of the main ways that state agencies communicate with the public, and increasingly they use their websites to publish important information. Web archiving plays a critical role in preserving California government information by capturing and storing official websites, publications, and other digital records. These archives are repositories of government information, and they ensure long-term public access. They also support historical research by maintaining a reliable digital record of how state agencies communicate and operate, and how archived web content is an invaluable resource for anyone studying governmental decisions, policy changes, and public affairs. And in addition to preventing link rot, web archiving makes sure that critical government information is accessible to the public for decades to come. This process ensures that important content remains accessible even after web pages are altered, removed, or taken offline. So to show how online information changes, I want to provide this example of the California COVID-19 exposure notification system. During the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, California created an exposure notification system. And so if you were researching this program and you knew it existed, and then you went to the California Department of Public Health website to learn more about the program, you would see this message saying that the system is no longer available. There might be some legacy web pages on the live web, but you might not be able to find detailed information about the program when it was still live. So what do you do? Well, one way is that you can search for the archived website. Since that website was captured when it was still live, it's preserved through archive. And here you can see the archived version of that web page available in our COVID-19 collection. You're now able to continue your research into the program. And so while web archiving is a fantastic tool, there are some limits about what can be captured. This includes dynamic content, so anything involving JavaScript, like scrolling a page within a web page, content that appears after user interactions, kind of like pressing a button, and then real-time updates like social media feeds. Additionally, interactive features like forms, search functions, some drop-down menus, and interactive maps can't be captured. Password-protected content, content behind logins, paywalls, or CAPTCHAs can also not be captured. If you have to sign into a web page to view a new page, that information can't be captured. Additionally, streaming media and external links aren't captured. And some websites prevent bots and data harvesters from accessing their scripts. We have ways of getting around these blocks, but in the course of your research, you may find websites that aren't accurately captured, and these are some of the reasons why that could be the case. Currently, our web archiving tool cannot capture social media. Many platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and X, require logins to access their content. Before these platforms required logins, social media could be captured, but that's no longer the case. The State Library does not have a collection of archived social media. Some institutions do have legacy collections, but sadly, not us. So as an example of how dynamic content on a live website looks, I want to show you all this view of the California Open Data Portal. You can see a link in the upper right-hand corner here, a login link in the upper right-hand corner here, an image carousel in the center of the page, and a search function in the middle that requires manual input. Here is that same archive website. The image, you can see the image carousel in the center doesn't display images, nor are there images within the showcase tiles. If you were to click on the login link or enter information into the search box, they would open to a new window, but that would be a dead, non-functioning web page. Sadly, web archiving works best with basic HTML pages. Advanced features are problematic, and if the website you need has these features, you may experience some limited function. So before Catherine kind of delves into a demonstration of the archive of the ca.gov domain, I kind of wanted to provide you all with some background on the project. The ca.gov archive is a collection of archive websites from the ca.gov domain. It originated in 2008 as the University of California project, curated by government document librarians from multiple institutions, and administered by the California Digital Library, a division of the Office of the UC President. The State Library did not take on a more active and administrative role in the archive until 2018, when we became the primary funding source and sole administrator of the archive. As of June 2025, the collection of archived state government websites has grown to include millions of websites, totaling more than 47 terabytes of data collected over 17 years. And the goal of this archive is ambitious and achievable. It's to provide archival access to the historical web presence of the state of California for anyone who needs it. In preserving the ca.gov domain, the State Library provides a valuable service and ensures that long-term accessibility of digital government documents remains accessible for future generations. Whoa, sorry about that. If you'd like to learn more about the web archiving program and about State Library in general, please visit the web archiving webpage on the State Library's website, and the link to that page has been posted in the chat window. I'm now going to pass the reins on to Catherine Westfeld, who will provide demonstrations of the web archive. Sorry, real quick, Catherine, you're on mute.
Of course I am. Hi, my name is Catherine Wessenfeld. I'm a librarian with the Government Publications section here at the California State Library. Michael has given a great overview of web archiving and the limitations we face. I'm going to focus on the State Library's web archiving project and then demonstrate a few ways to find information in our web archive. So the State Library uses a web archiving service, Archiveit, to maintain the archive of the California government domain ca.gov. Archiveit runs on the Internet Archive's nonprofit, self-owned, and operated data centers and uses the Wayback Machine as its foundation. Since 2006, Archiveit has supported over 800 organizations across more than 24 countries, including libraries, cultural memory and research institutions, and social impact and community groups. So let's talk a little bit about what we capture. We capture URLs or web addresses. This can be for documents, usually PDFs online, like agency reports or committee meeting minutes. This can also be for a single page of a larger website or an entire website and most of what it contains. When considering what to archive, we first evaluate whether the item is something that fits in our archive. Is it something the public would be interested in? Is it an item of legal importance? Does it have historical value? We look for items that are relevant to state government and most of the time stay away from local items like city or county information. We capture sites that are affiliated with the state or reflect information that impacts the state of California. Let's take a look at some examples. We capture affiliated websites like the California State Railroad Museum or the California African American Museum. We capture current events like the press surrounding the death of Dianne Feinstein, including the White House press release and other current events of note. We capture information about natural events. When the wildfires occurred earlier this year in Southern California, we were crawling selected sites at least 2 times a week, if not more often. One thing we don't capture is external links that are listed on ca.gov sites. We have regularly scheduled crawls, which capture our entire active collection bi-monthly. That is every 2 months, and it happens in the odd-numbered months. There are a couple exceptions to this. One is the governor's website, gov.ca.gov, is crawled weekly, and our COVID collection currently is maintained monthly. There are crawls that happen throughout the month. We could be adding a new URL to the archive, capturing an event that's occurred recently, or capturing information that we think may not remain on the live web. Crawling the archive regularly ensures that the archive remains current. It also allows us to catch updates to URLs, redirects that may have happened, or an error because a website is no longer live on the internet. We're going to start looking at links on the live web, and in the interest of time and the possibility of the internet not cooperating with us, I have preloaded the tabs. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Give me 2 seconds. I'd like to start by pointing you to our web archive of the ca.gov domain page, which you can find on the government publications page of the state library's website. This page has a more in-depth version of what we'll be talking about today, along with a helpful FAQ on web crawling, our contact information, and links to both our archive and other related resources you'll hear about during this presentation. Now we're going to look at how you can access our archive and then go over a few examples of searches. This is the California State Library's website homepage, and we're going to be using the gray buttons in the middle, and we're going to select this online resources button, which will take you to our online resources page, which looks like this at the top. This is a list of all the resources and databases the state library offers. You can see that it indicates which resources are only available to state employees and those available to the general public. You will also see as I scroll down that there are resources that require a user to be on site. And this is the one we're looking for, the Archive of the California Government Domain, ca.gov. By selecting this link, I'm directed to the landing page for the California State Library's web archive. Archive.it is in the process of rebranding, and there is a color change that is going to be happening. So it may look different if you go back to use it. It has a blue kind of color scheme, but this is what it looks like today. You'll notice that we have 6 collections in our archive listed here in the middle of the page. We're going to be looking at the collection at the top of the list, Archive of the California Government Domain.ca. I'm going to click on the name of this collection to open it, and it will take us to this page. And we can see that we're in the collection because the title has changed in the box here at the top. Once you are in a collection, like the Archive of the ca.gov domain, you have different ways to look for items and sort the results based on what you're looking for. First, let's start here on the left-hand side of the screen. These are the filters that can be used to narrow your results. I find it easier to use them alphabetically, and that's a change that can be made by selecting the A to Z here. And let's look at the top 3 groups. The groups are based mostly on the California Executive Branch's organizational chart. The subjects are based on subject headings similar to the ones that can be found in our library catalog.
Catherine, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, we're getting a number of responses. I apologize for interrupting. That say that they're stuck on the frequency of capture slide.
Oh no. Okay, let me see again. Hold on just a second.
I apologize for interrupting.
No,
Thank you.
fine.
Thanks everybody for putting your questions in and letting us know.
This
is live, a live situation. So thank you for your patience with live programming.
Can people see it now?
Okay, could somebody please put in whether you are able to see?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I don't know. Let's see. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. 12:19. Yes. I don't know why some. Okay. People are appearing to see it. Most people are seeing it. So, yeah.
So this is the Archive of the California Government Domain, the ca.gov collection in our archive. And what I was speaking about is these three filters on the side to narrow your results. So here are the groups that I was saying are based on the executive branch, the subjects here that are based on our subject headings in our library catalog, and then the creator here who has produced the website or the document. And then in the middle of the page is the search bar and the results list. So the search bar here can be used to search URLs, keywords, or phrases. If you use the search bar to look for URLs, it's best not to include the HTTPS or the www, as the website may have changed over time and the search box can be super sensitive. And as a reminder, if you want to do a new search, you need to click this clear button over here, or else the new search you start will be searching within your search results. There are two tabs here. One is for sites, one is for search page text. We recommend you stick with the sites tab. The search page text can get a little hairy when it decides what it wants to search and what it doesn't. So we are going to search for the California State Library's archived page. I searched for California State Library, and we can see that the result is listed here at the top. We see the title, which can be the organization, or it can be the title of the document. Below is the URL that was crawled, not necessarily the most current URL. Below that, you get a brief description of the item that's been captured, either about the agency or a summary of what the document is. Below the description, it shows you how many times the site's been captured. So the California State Library site has been captured 251 times, starting in October of 2008, which was by the original group that Michael told you a little bit about, and most recently in May of this year. So the next thing we are going to do is to go in and look at the captures of the state library. And I do that by clicking on this URL here. And it will open this calendar for me. So you can see the results for this website when you first click on the URL. This calendar is for the URL that is listed in blue at the top here. So we can see that here. And then you'll notice this strip below it that looks like a bar graph. The black bars represent captures from the corresponding years that are listed below them. We can also see that some of these dates have different colors highlighting them, blue and orange on this one. They denote different issues with the capture on that day. Blue tells us that the crawlers retrieved the page with no problems. Sometimes you'll see green, which tells us the crawler found a redirect somewhere and crawled one URL in the place of another. Orange tells us that the crawler received a status code of some kind. This could be a 403 or a 404, for example, and that's a client error. And then sometimes, rarely, you may see red, and that's because the crawler hit a server error of some kind. So that could be a 503 error. Most of the time you'll probably want to select the blue dots or links. You can see here if you hover over a date, you are shown time signatures for the crawls, and you can click on either one of these links as well as this blue dot. The calendar defaults to the current year, but we're going to go ahead and search 2019. So I've clicked on 2019 and it's giving me the calendar here for that year. And now we're going to choose a day in that month. It's going to be May 31st, 2019. And I can either double click on the blue dot or click on the time link. And it will bring me to the California State Library's website for May 31st, 2019. And as Michael spoke about earlier, you can see that some of the dynamic content doesn't work correctly. For example, the header doesn't move when I scroll the page. The video here at the bottom that was being highlighted was not captured. I can click on icons to visit other pages. So if I click on this previous capitals icon, it'll take me to that page in the archived website, and I can read about previous capitals of California. But if I decide that I want to use the search box here and do a search, I'm going to be given a result that looks like this. And this means that that page or whatever I searched was not captured. So this is an example of a search box that's not working properly. Now we're going to look at a reference question we received online via our Ask a Librarian service. This user was trying to find a document, preferably in a digital format, and this was their question. I'm looking for a copy of the Ready to List guide from the California Department of Transportation from 2009, which I believe was published by either the engineering services or the office engineer part of that agency. So the first thing we're going to do is find the Caltrans entry for the archived site. And I am going to use the search box and search here for Department of Transportation. I then click on this URL here. As we can see, Department of Transportation is here. So once you click on this URL, it'll bring up the calendar. The patron is looking for the 2009 RTL. I'm going to start with 2010 because I know it can take time for government publications to get reviewed and approved and then posted online. I may need to look at different years than the publication's date of the document that I'm looking for. So it's 2010. I'm going to choose October 8th because it's the latest date of the year and will ensure that the capture I'm looking at is the most current for that year. And it will bring me to the Caltrans website for October 8th, 2010. And we can see that listed here in the yellow bar. I'm going to choose the engineering tab, drop down, choose Office of the Engineer here on the far left, and that will take me to the Office Engineer page from 2010. In the menu on the left-hand side, if we scroll down here, we can see that there is a link for the Ready to List guide. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and I'll be directed to the archived page for the Ready to List and Construction Contract Award Guide. We can see there's a link to the entire document here, as well as revisions that had occurred in the previous years. I'm going to click on the link here to look at the full guide, and that's going to bring me to this PDF. And if we scroll down, we can see that our PDF is June 2009. This document can be printed or downloaded as a PDF, same as the day it was put on the website in this same format. But there are times when you can be searching Archive It and you may need to think outside of the box or ways around the direct route to the piece of information you're looking for. For example, if we're looking for budget information from 2002 and 2003, we start searching because we know ebudget.ca.gov is where we can get budget information. In this instance, I've searched the URL, leaving off the HTTPS as well as the www, and I can see that I get the result here. I'm going to go ahead again, click on the URL, and be taken to the calendar for that. And I'm going to choose October of 2008 down here. This opens the eBudget page for the 2008-09 California budget. I'm able to click on budget detail and be taken to that page. But what if I'm looking for the budget pre-2008 and I can't find it because the latest we go back is 2008? One place to look would be the Department of Finance's archived website. So I'm going to go ahead and search their URL, which is dof.ca.gov. And I wanted to show you this one because the department always doesn't appear at the top of the search results. So here it happens to be the third one down, but we will click on this URL again, get taken to this page. I'm going to choose a similar date in October to what I was looking at before. And I'm going to be taken to the Department of Finance's page in 2008. Now, the budget information is usually listed here in the middle of the page when you're looking at these archived websites. But if it's not, you may have to use the California budget tab up here at the top. But what we're interested in is historical documents here. So when we click on historical documents, it's going to take us to this page. We can see here in this drop-down box that it's the 0809 budget, but this is a drop-down box that works. So if we open that, we can see that we can actually go back all the way to the 2000-2001 budget. But what we're interested in is that 02-03 budget. So I'm going to click here to make a selection. And it's going to take me to the 02-03 budget and the information that's available. And if I'm interested in seeing this veto message package, I click on that. And just like the Caltrans document, that PDF is here, available, scrollable. You can download it, you can print it. So those are my two examples for you on how to use Archive-It. I want to remind you that our archive is only as good as the website was the day it was captured. If an agency isn't posting documents to the site, they're not going to be available to us today. I recently worked with someone looking for historical reports from the Office of the Governor. And while our current governor is posting those items, they didn't in the past. I'm going to pass it back to Michael now to tell you about additional resources for web archiving.
All right. Thank you, Catherine. I think everyone should be able to hear and see me right now. Good. So again, thank you, Catherine. So we're nearing the end of the presentation, but I want to highlight some additional web archiving programs. We're not the only institution conducting this work, and there are many, many other institutions, both governmental and non-governmental, that, oh, where we go? There we go. That have their own web collections. Let's go over some of these. So there are large web archives of federal government document websites. Some of the largest include the Congressional Web Harvest, which is a complete collection of congressional websites captured at the end of each Congress since 2006. This includes member, committee, and social media content, and this is managed by the Center for Legislative Archives. There's also the National Archives Presidential Web Archive, which preserves web records of presidential websites at the end of each administration. And the Library of Congress has their own web archive, and that is a very highly curated collection of websites, and they aim to capture the digital record of the US and other significant global topics. An interesting part about their collection is that it's really global in focus, and it's not centered solely on US government information. Additionally, there's also the End of Term Web Archive, which is a collaboration between governmental and non-governmental institutions available on the Internet Archive. And its goal is to capture and preserve US federal government websites at the end of each government presidential administration. And that ensures that government web content is still accessible even if it's changed or removed during administrative transitions, and that it remains accessible to the public. And then last and most spooky sounding is the Cyber Cemetery. And this is a digital archive of defunct US government websites, and that's preserved by the University of North Texas Libraries in partnership with the US Government Publishing Office, or GPO. If you're interested in learning more about federal government resources, I highly recommend a previous webinar hosted by the Government Publications section called Federal Government Information: How to Locate and Access Online Resources. You can find this webinar and many more on the California State Library's YouTube channel, and there has been a link posted in the chat window for that resource. And then lastly, some folks have expressed interest in learning how they can help these large web archiving programs. One way for the public to participate in web archiving is using the Wayback Machine. It has a Save Page Now feature where you can have the Internet Archive capture a web page. A note about this feature, if you use it, the capture gets added to the Internet Archives collection and not the State Libraries collection. One other way to participate is by letting us know of any missing websites within the State Libraries collection. If you come across a URL that is not in our collection, please let us know. Send us an email with the URL and we'll do our best to have it added to our collection. Public participation really helps to strengthen the scope of our archive. And so this concludes the main part of the presentation. We're going to now switch over to the Q&A portion. Please let us know if you have any questions about web archiving, the CA collection, or any other questions you may have. Mona, are there any questions?
Yes, hi, Michael. Thank you, Michael and Catherine. And thank you, everybody that's attended and for your patience with a little bit of tech stuff, as I'm sure everybody knows how that goes. So let's get to the first question. And this is a great question. Why did you decide not to capture external links on the ca.gov websites? How does that fit into your collection policy? So if that's something that you guys can answer, Michael or Catherine?
Sure, I can go ahead and answer that. So what we're trying to capture is ca.gov websites and items that are within that domain. There's a couple different things. One is a space issue. Once we start collecting external links, it can go and just repeat on and on. And so we start collecting things that we doesn't meet what we want it to be. So we have chosen not to crawl external links that sit on ca.gov sites. We do, if we feel that it is capturing information that's really important for us to capture, we do crawl external sites.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks so much for that answer. This is an interesting question. What happens to this archive system if the Wayback Machine goes down? And I believe we have a little experience with that.
Michael, do you want to answer that, or you want me? I mean, I can answer it. So the recently, I think it was this year or maybe the end of last year, the Wayback Machine went down. They had an issue at the Internet Archive, and we don't have access to our archive. When we are capturing all of this information, we are able to download it in a file format. We are also able to get it from the archive. So even if it's not available on the live web, we are able to get our work files from them. And then we would be looking for a new resource to post this information to. But it is accessible even if the Wayback goes down.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you so much. Okay, our next question. Are you extracting out individual documents and files out of the web archives for additional cataloging? This would be extremely important for a user looking for a specific report and don't necessarily know the agency URL. I'm not sure if that's something you guys can speak to or not, but.
I'll take this one.
Okay,
So we're not
thanks.
extracting PDFs or other documents from our crawls. We have the option to right now, but it's not something we're actively pursuing. We do collect and catalog foreign digital material. That's something Catherine and I both work on. We have a significant backlog of material we've already found and made accessible through cataloging, making them available through our library catalog. But due to the volume of the amount of information that the state produces, we don't have the ability to extract all that information and then catalog it and make it accessible to the public on a quick time scale. We do that, but just not at the level that we wish we could right now, unfortunately.
And
Okay.
I'll jump in here. So just to give people an idea, the bi-monthly crawls we do, those crawls are about a terabyte per session that we do every 2 months. There are some websites that we are pulling hundreds of thousands of PDFs off of. So when we are also looking at PDFs that are crawled through Archive It, it's just the amount is enormous, and we also just at this point in time don't have the manpower to be extracting those PDFs. But we are, like Michael said, with Born digital documents, trying to link them to archived sites in our catalog so that you have access to that on an archived site versus a live site that may take the document down.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Catherine. And before we get to the next question, I have a couple, thanks so much for all your questions, everyone. I have a couple requests for presentation slide decks. And I'm thinking that, yes, we can provide those. We'll be sending the link out, the recording link out once it's been cleaned up for closed captioning. We'll send a follow-up with the link, and then we can include the slide deck, I believe, if that's okay with Catherine and Michael. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we discussed that, so it'll be with the recording, and then I can put together the demonstrations I did, so that's included in the slide deck as well.
Okay, great. Okay, our next question. Are websites considered official government records in California? I don't know, then that might be a Michael question.
I think that is a Michael question, and I wonder if we.
Yeah,
Oh.
I could take it.
Yeah.
So our website's considered official government records. It's tricky. So there is a government code, 14902, or thereabouts, that kind of defines what a government document or publication is. There's some specific examples, but there's also room for interpretation. I can't interpret that code or that statute. But what I can say is that there are definitely government publications that are posted on websites. And to ensure that those documents remain accessible, we have this web archiving program. Yeah, I think it's up in the air right now. I think it also kind of talks a little bit about how state agencies are responsible for ensuring their records remain public. There are significant and large record retention laws that apply to state agencies. How state agencies interpret that and how it applies to web archiving is up for each agency to determine. But right now, web archiving and websites don't appear to fit the definition of a government document.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. You know, here's another one along that same line, Michael. So if they're considered official government records, how do archivists handle websites that contain sensitive or personally identifiable information?
Yeah, I can take that one. So it's a difficult and tricky question. I won't delve too much into the kind of the details of web archiving and capturing data, but when we add a new parent URL to be captured, we do review it, make sure that it meets our criteria to be included in the collection. One thing we do look out for is, personally identifiable information. We haven't come across that locally. We also go on the assumption that what is posted online is public information. If there is sensitive or classified information behind logins, that we wouldn't have access to that at all. It's only what is generally available online. And so we're basically going on that assumption that that information won't be put up online. if it is, we do have a way to remove it from our collection, kind of hide it from the public if we're made aware of information that was released with that shouldn't have been. We can remove it from our collection. But right now we collect what's available on the website that anyone from around the world can view.
Can I jump in there too? That there are agencies that will use artwork or other things that are copyrighted. Those copyrights remain with the artists, not the agency. So while we crawl that, we do say that if you are the copyright owner of something that you would like removed from our archive, we ask you to contact us and we'll go ahead and work with you on that. But there are some things that are copyrighted, and we just try to remain aware that we can be contacted and asked to remove that as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Michael and Catherine. Okay, our next question. Do you ever use different tools or processes to archive sites other than Wayback? Are there any you've considered?
Like this, there are other large web archiving programs and third-party vendors that provide these services. We've looked into others and decided that right now, for our needs and for the needs of our users, that we'll continue with using Archive.it, which is a Wayback Machine, which is Internet Archive. One reason is that it has a lot of brand power. A lot of people know about the Internet Archive. It's one of the largest repositories of web archive collections, and so it has a lot of visibility. And so we're going to continue using Archive.it for the foreseeable future. We have explored creating our own web archiving platform and our own tools. We just don't have the staff power to create these tools on our own. So for the time being, we're going to use Archive.it in the Internet Archive.
Okay, thanks. There's another question that it's kind of interesting too. And it might speak to what you were just talking about. Have you explored options for capturing and making available dynamic content that's not handled well by Archive.it? I'm curious, is that even possible? I mean, would you have to have deep tools for JavaScript and stuff like that? I'm not quite sure how you would capture that, but that's a good question.
Maybe I can start that, and then Michael, if you have anything to add. I think we are always exploring ways to archive more information. We are aware, as I was saying, Archive.it is undergoing a branding change. They're also working to make changes and meeting with larger kind of stakeholders to discuss what we would like to see Archive.it be able to do. So we have looked into it. One of the things we are working on is a lot of our webinars go up on our YouTube channel. And so one of the things I've been working on is trying to be able to crawl our YouTube channel and to actually capture those videos and be able to make it available to other people. It is something we're constantly kind of looking at and trying to figure out if there are ways to capture other dynamic content. And we're looking forward to what the Internet Archive is going to do and start to offer to us through Archive.it.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you so much for that answer.
Oh,
And
sorry, real
so
quick.
go for it. Mhm.
Just because there's one little curious tie in with this. We are in conversation with the Internet Archive.it, and along with many other institutions about this problem. And so they're aware of it. They are working on ways to address this problem. One of the interesting possibilities about AI is using these as yet kind of undeveloped, but AI crawling bots that can interact with these dynamic features and then crawl the relevant or crawl the results from that. That's still very much not applicable and not available to anyone yet, but that is a feature that people are starting to explore, and hopefully we'll be able to address this problem in the coming years.
Okay, that's great. I'm so glad you brought up artificial intelligence because we did have a question that asks if you see artificial intelligence as creating more opportunities in archiving or more challenges, or maybe both, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think it can be both. It's such a new technology that there's a lot of potential. Um, and I think there needs to be time for that potential to be realized. So as of yet, I know Archivit is looking into it. They are trying to figure out how they can integrate AI with their data harvesters, but right now it's still very much in a theoretical phase, and I don't see it becoming practical for a couple years. I think the advancements are just rapidly coming, so be on the lookout. Maybe we'll find something new in a year or two.
Yeah, I know those bots. They can actually be, they've helped us a lot in a lot of different ways. Okay, so the next question. What questions or concerns do you have about the long-term preservation of digital government content?
I'll start with this. Well, we're still, despite our work in digital preservation, we're still very much a print based government. A number of agencies still give us print documents, so we're still receiving a large amount of material in print. There is a large shift into producing more digital content, and so that's where Catherine and I kind of specialize: web archiving and also born digital documents, collecting those from state agencies. In terms of preservation, Catherine mentioned that because we do work with a third-party vendor, those third-party vendors and government agencies themselves can be hacked. We can experience DDoS attacks where our material is taken offline. Luckily, there's a lot of redundancy built into our process and our servers. So if something goes down in one spot, we have copies available elsewhere. And I say that not just for Archivit and web archiving, but just for the library's own digital collections and digitized material. There's built-in redundancy there. The other thing is that information does change quickly online. We've seen web pages be altered or removed or taken offline during different transitions. And so it's just an unavoidable fact of government life. Material changes. There's a lot of ephemeral material online. And so one of the reasons that we have a very robust web archiving system and crawling or capturing process is we try and capture information before it can be changed. And yeah, so we try and capture what's available as frequently as possible to avoid information loss.
I think also just the amount of content, online, digital, government content that is made is insane. And so we are doing our best to crawl all of that information and to gather it. And I always feel like we're trying to get there, but you can always be a little bit behind the able, I guess, in trying to capture it because there just is so much to try and find and capture. So I'm not sure if it's until we do something with AI that we're able to capture it in a quicker format to get more space to store it. So but we're working to do it and we're doing it as fast as we can.
Okay, great. That's okay. So the next question, I have a couple that are agency kind of related. Um, and it says, do you archive everything that an agency posts on their web pages? I know you've gone into a bit about what you crawl for, but um, does anybody archive everything that an agency would post on their web page? I'm curious about that.
I'll jump in on this one. we tried to capture everything. Some things can't be. One of the issues is, so if a agency posts a URL, or like a link to a report that is hosted on their domain, that can be captured. An example of something that can't be captured is if an agency has a newsletter, a public newsletter, say from a non-agency hosted domain like MailChimp, and that they post the link to that newsletter on their website, but that URL or that link is to a third-party external vendor, company, institution, whatever. That third-party URL isn't captured. The reason for that is that it's called jumping. It's a kind of a technical term in web archiving, or jumping or hops. And so we will collect a URL and have so many hops or clicks from that URL. The reason we limit, at least internally, or for here at the State Library, is that we limit these external URLs because there could be hundreds of clicks within for each URL within that you could take from that URL. And so the scope of the capture would increase exponentially. We do have data limits on how much storage we have. And so if we were to capture external links, it basically means we would capture everything on those websites and everything within those websites that points to other websites. And so we have to limit just by how much storage we have. And so long story short, we try and capture everything. And so if you post something on your agency website, and it's still hosted, like a report is still hosted on your domain, on your servers, then we should be able to capture that. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, okay, so then there was a question very similar, and so I think what you just said answered this, but if we post work group documents such as a meeting minute and agenda with various links, are these documents being archived as well? So would that only be if they're pointing to other outside?
It's hard to truly answer that without seeing what that URL actually looks like. If it's a URL that says doj.edu.gov/meeting minutes, very likely that would be crawled, but I can't say for certain without seeing that URL. What I recommend doing is trying to find your agency website in our collection, searching to see if those documents are captured. If not, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do to help ensure those are being accurately captured.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Here's another really great question too. If you could get a California state agency to design their website and content to be more easily harvestable, what kind of guidance would you want to give them?
Michael,
What could
I'm gonna
they
go
do on their
first.
end?
I'm gonna go first.
Me first, me first.
So one of the things we are finding more recently with a few is that we're actually getting blocked, and we have a custom agent name. It says it's the California State Library that's crawling them, and so I'm starting to reach out to agencies to be like, hey, this is us, this is what we're doing. Can you please give us access to your website? So the part of it is that I wish we would just be allowed to crawl them to begin with. And I think that there are some other things that change rapidly on websites that I think for me, it would just be hopefully crawling it a little bit more. But the other thing that I have that's a personal thing for me is that on some websites, a brochure that updates annually has the same PDF URL. And so if somebody looks at it in 2025, they see the 2025 version of that brochure, but they don't realize that if they go back a few years, that same exact link is going to be to the 2022 version or back. And so as the same link gets updated with updated documents, it can create confusion for a user trying to look at archived documents.
Okay, great.
What's
Thank
on
you.
your wish list, Michael?
Yeah, what's on Michael's wish list?
Hell, it's so long I can't even begin to describe it, but we have hit one wall. So I think in the interest of time and respecting
Yeah.
everyone's lunch hour, we should draw this to a close. So I'm going to conclude the presentation. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. I encourage you all to explore the CA.gov archive collection and utilize those materials. There will be a short survey once I close the window, and we would appreciate it if you can help us out. Let us know your thoughts on the webinar. And if you have any further questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure.